Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am the host, Josiah, aka Mauler67. And with me, as always, I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty okay too. I was a little tired, so I took a little nap, and then each time the alarm went off, I'm like, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So, what can you do? It's been one of those days, and it's been pretty solid, pretty eventful. Outside of that, you have anything good going on? Just to say this, we did have to skip last week. We took a week off. Emergency came up. Everything's okay. Everything's fine. So we don't have to go into that whole detail and all that good stuff. So this is a week late. For the people who were watching via stream. For the people listening via podcast. Oops. Austin.
Yeah.
Man, you said like nothing's really going on, but we just got back from a weekend.
Well, that's why I was going to lean into you with that. So, like, how was your weekend, Josiah?
Sure. It was fine. And nothing big happened. Yeah. That's weird. No, I'm kidding. It was my birthday week, last week. And, last weekend, I was invited out to go to a little cabin in the woods next to the lake where a bunch of people tried to murder me. Nah, it was just a bunch of my friends. Austin had a little birthday party for me. He put something together with a bunch of my friends, and it was a good old time. We sat around, we played board games, we ate a bunch of food, and we had like 2 days of relative fun. It was pretty great.
And then we tried to get into a bunk bed that no one could get in because at the top it was too small.
It wasn't even okay. It wasn't even the fact that the bunk bed was too small. The problem was that there was only one way to enter, and it was through like this area, and
it
the
was
rest
like the
of it
ladder
was
area.
encased.
Yeah.
Because everything else was encased, and the encasement basically touched the ceiling. You only could get into that small slot.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just a normal bunk bed without the side being encased, any of us could have just flopped it. No issue. It was just the fact that it was encased like it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically made everyone like afraid to climb. Which, I wasn't going to. I tried at one point. Like I started walking up there, and after seeing Terry get like nearly mutilated getting down, I was like, no, I'm good. We don't need that extra bed anyway, so we're pretty safe there. But no, it was a really good old time, fun time. Play a lot of board games. That was the main thing.
Were you surprised at all, or did you kind of get that we were doing something?
Okay. So early on, I figured something was happening, especially because you're like, hey, we're going to do a thing, but it's not going to be at the house. The second you said not going to be in Ohio, my brain instantly went like, okay, something bigger is planned, because the reason why we wouldn't have it in Ohio is because more people than what Austin would want to admit was going. If it was just going to be like, hey, come back for the weekend, we're going to just hang out, me and you, maybe go see a movie or something like that, and then that was it, then I was like, okay, it's gonna be smaller. But because you're like, oh, I got this area, I got this place or whatever, I was like, why would he rent out a whole thing on his own? And like I knew that my two friends, Jordan and Terry, were going. But then I like ultimately just told myself, you know what? Just don't even look into things, don't even ask, don't even try. Like just absorb whatever it is, because it's gonna be fun regardless. And I even made a joke to John. I'm like, there was a day where me and him were in chat together, and I'm like, I could easily ask him a question right now and get him to tell me the truth without him realizing, because I knew enough information at one point. Yeah, we're going to a house. I'm like, me and Jordan, all of us, were leaving Friday at 3. And so what I wanted to say and ask John was, Hey man, just question. Me, Jordan, and Terry's gonna be at the house around 3. What time are you gonna be there? And see if he would respond. And he could respond 2 ways. He could respond 3. One, he caught on and just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. One, he doesn't catch on, but Wit wasn't coming. He'd be like, nah, it's just me, man. Or him and Wit were going to come, and he's just like, well, we're planning to be there around 4.
Oh, gotcha.
And I told him that, and he's like, yeah, I totally would have fell for that. I'm like, it's those little things you could do to really mess with someone's brain on if they're going to do something. The thing that surprised me was that my other friend Abel, you got Abel and his girlfriend Carissa to go, and even our friend Paris showed up, which I was just surprised by that. I was like, oh dang, I didn't expect that at all. Those were the 2 big ones that I'm surprised you got.
Yeah, he actually messaged me because we were like gaming one night, and like we're like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and he's like, hey, like, are you doing something for Josiah? And I was like, yeah, I am. I'm gonna like, all of us have planned to like rent this Airbnb out. Would you like to come? I was like, but the only problem is all the beds are full, so we don't have a spot for you to sleep. And he's like, oh no, that's fine. I'm not gonna stay anyways. He's like, I'll come down and like see him and hang out. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. So yeah.
Okay, but that was Paris. Okay.
Yeah, that was Paris.
When you're saying that, I thought you were talking about Abel. Oh no. You ended up saying no.
Yeah, we got our review back from the person that rented us the house. No, they were really they actually told us that we should rent it again because we kept it very cleanly.
Hey, they give us a 30% discount. Heck yeah, we will.
But no, they were super happy that we like me and Whitney and John actually took all the towels and stuff that people used and we put them in the washer. Because I was like, I'd rather do this than like someone else like having to walk around that whole big house, because it's a big house. It was like 1, 2, 3. It was like 3 bedrooms and a basement that was like considered like another room, another room. But
yeah, that extra room wasn't. That literally looked like a dungeon that someone repurposed. Because they're like, it's a bar, and all it is just this empty room, and on the other side is just a bar up against the wall with 2 seats and a little fish light, and it says welcome to the bar. And it's like, that's not a bar. That looks like a hidden thing someone put in here to hide from the fact that there used to be people chained up down here. This is not cool. It was terrifying.
Yeah,
but the rest of the house was beautiful, and like we said, definitely probably would have been amazing house during the summer or spring months, because it's so close to the lake that it would have been fantastic to go there, go swimming or fishing or whatever you do out in the lake.
That wasn't our first spot we wanted. The first spot that we wanted was in a little town called Gravity Falls, but we couldn't get the Mystery Shack rented out. So,
well, that's awkward because that's what we're talking about today, Austin.
Whoa!
The TV show Gravity Falls season 2, a show that I love and absolutely adore, and you didn't know anything about. Well, you knew a little bit about it, but not enough to actually have benefit to it. So Austin, what'd you think about Gravity Falls? Now that you have, this is part 2, I guess, of two seasons. So 2 is all we're doing. Austin.
Yeah.
The whole season together and just season 2. What'd you think?
I'm going to say exactly like I said before. This is a really good show. I really enjoyed it. The tone did definitely change. And I noticed when the tone changed, I was kind of shocked to see some of a lot of the voice actors for the show that they got, like J.K. Simmons playing Ford. And, I finally got to see Neil deGrasse Tyson and Will Forte, finally part of that group. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought the ending was satisfying. I was okay with it. The only problem I have with it, and like I don't even consider that a problem, but it's a problem in me, for my opinion, my emotional opinion, is I wish there was more. Like I feel like it's too short. Like I really enjoyed this, but it reminded me of something of my life, And it you know, like last time we talked, like how I felt like Dipper, and you know, I kind of think it led into this in like season 2, where I felt like there was something that, you know, it changes the tone of the show because of a decision that has to be made. And what happened in the show reminded me of something that happened in my life. And it was good. It was really good. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. It was a blast. You know, and I kind of guessed some things, like I was like, oh yeah, you know, like he's back, of course. But and then towards the end I kind of guessed, like, you know, that he was, you know, Gideon was going to turn good, like, you know, and he's like, tell Mabel I was the one that did it, you know, and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. There were some great episodes in this season. Like, I didn't expect to have some of these really wacky episodes, but I loved every minute of it. I did not guess who was the creator of the journals.
Yeah.
I did not guess that. I had a theory, but I didn't get that it was going to be another relative. Like I didn't get that.
What was your theory going into it?
So like, I really thought that like the guy that wrote the book was the old crazy man, like this prospector. I thought that.
But fun fact, that was a fan theory for a lot of people too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why during the process of reveal, like the whole up to the point of it, they kept adding him into episodes, and they kept showing off his one hand that looked like it had bandage over it, as if it was hiding something or something was cut off. And that was a fan theory that they hard teased for basically the whole point. And I was kind of on the same boat with you. That's where I thought so too. My thought was two things: either one, it was him, or two, it's going to be someone else that we haven't met yet. And it was ultimately someone we have technically met, but not technically. Like, yeah, it's like the technicality of like the Actually show. It's like, well, technically, no.
Yeah. No, like I was, my conclusion why I took the old crazy prospector dude, I always forget his name. MacGuffin. The reason why I took him as that is because the first episode that we see him in season 1 is where he does it's the fishing boat.
Yeah, the Loch Ness
episode.
Monster-esque.
And he makes that big old monster a machine. And when I saw, you know, Uncle Grunkle Stan go down in his lair after the first season, and there was like all this technology, I was like, how did that technology get there? I was like, there's only one person in town that I could think of that would do something like that. And the only person that I had a conclusion was MacGuffin. I was like, or whatever his name is. Like, that's the only thing. I was like, he's the one that would be scientifically. And I kind of was like, he's playing dumb. Like, I felt like he was playing dumb because I was like, this guy's building like mechs, like big old machines. And he's playing dumb because he's hiding something. So I kind of guessed like the whole like portal thing. Also, yeah, I forgot. Nick Offerman was in this season too. He played one of the FBI agents. Yeah, it was interesting. I came to that conclusion. I was like, oh, and so when I watched the episode and then they brought it up, I was like, yes, I got it. And it's like, no, I didn't write these journals. Like, I was working with the person that wrote these journals. I was like, oh, is that a lie? Like, is he just like trying to hide something? I was like, maybe it is Uncle Stan. And then I was like, nope, wasn't Uncle Stan. Like,
oh no, it was Uncle Stan.
Well,
that's the technically, because that's the thing I love about this is how it's retcon. Well, it's not retcon, it's twisted, because the person we know is not actually Stanford Pines. The author of the journal was Stanford Pines. The person that we known up to this point we thought was Stanford, it was actually his twin brother Stanley. And so technically Stanford is the one who wrote the journals.
Yeah.
But it's not the person that we've known as Stanford.
No.
That was the thing that I'm just like, you freaking cheeky monster, you. Like, why you gotta be like that?
Oh man,
I
yeah, and
loved
I knew Cypher was gonna be back because like Cypher,
Oh,
how he
yeah.
left, it was like, oh yeah, he's part of like and the other thing is too is like the theme song to this show,
Mhm.
like actually points out a lot of things like before, it was like kind of there the whole time, because they talk about how like the triangle in the book and like the cipher, and then like they have like the circle that at the end of like what was it the show where they have to get in a circle and like
Mhm.
banish him back.
From the
that
get
has
go, those have
that has
that
been
has been
there.
present. Yep.
Yeah, so whoever wrote this,
Alex Herx, which
also the same guy that plays Dipper.
yep.
Yeah.
The guy who voices Dipper and I believe Bill Cipher, he also
Oh,
does,
okay.
and Grunkle Stan.
Hmm,
This
that's
guy.
right.
Okay, so talking about the mild like situation going on or whatever, and all that. Like Justin Roiland and Alex Herx were friends.
Yeah, because I remember
Justin
them
Roiland
doing,
is being pushed aside for all the horrible things that he has done,
yeah,
and he
everything.
officially has been like cut out of Cartoon Network.
Well, he's been cut out of everything now because
Everything.
Hulu just,
Well, I mean
yeah, Hulu
that's what
dropped
happens.
him. Was it Hulu dropped him? Koala Man, I think
Voila.
Koala Man. It's the one with Hugh Jackman. It's the new
Oh.
Hulu. He also got he got separated from Squanch Games, which made High on Life. And a
Really?
lot of
That
other
was the
things.
one that I was wondering if that was just going to go down in flames because that
Yeah,
type
that
of thing.
all that
That's
happened today.
that's that's the right thing to do, honestly. The
100%.
thing is that when this happened, I've been seeing a bunch of TikToks of like people showing have you seen the TikToks or even if you've watched it, the Puss in Boots scene
Yeah,
where it's like the
yeah.
wolf and he's like kicking the sword over and it's the cat all like it's Puss all terrified and he's just like pick it up and it's Rick and Morty and he kicks over the fandom to him and it's Alex Hurst and he's just like he's like pick it up because people think because the style of Gravity Falls humor and everything is like a more PG level of that
Subtle Rick and Morty in a way.
and and they think he could do just as much justice. I've seen that and also the one I think is like Sam Says or something like that. There's a guy on TikTok who's very good at doing it like creepily close and like on spot on to a
Oh
Rick and
yeah,
Morty guy.
everyone's
And everyone's
been
trying to like
to
get
judge.
him the job. Which he
Yeah,
can do.
he's really good because he does like multiple voices. He even does Homer Simpson,
Oh yeah,
if I'm correct.
he's
yeah.
really solid.
He's really good.
But
So,
the reason why I brought that up and everything is because of course Justin Roiland is in this show. He plays a couple different characters, mainly the time traveler, which
yeah.
I love that episode. The fact that he comes back also makes me enjoy it too. But when it comes to the style of storytelling is done is pointed a lot of time that this shares the same universe as the Rick and Morty show because there's a little it's not a cameo. I think it's more of like maybe it's a cameo in the episode where Stanley is looking up and he starts activating the portal. 3 objects go into the portal, and it's a cup, a book, and a pencil, I think it is. And in the first season of Rick and Morty, when Rick opens up 3 individual portals, those 3 items come out of one of the portals. So who knows? Maybe Alex Hirsch will do it, maybe not. I don't know. A lot of people are like, Alex Hirsch is too good for that, but I don't know. I haven't really watched any of that show like Rick and Morty in a long time. So who freaking knows? But they gotta figure that stuff out and move forward. But
Yeah.
Austin,
Mm-hmm.
can I ask what was your favorite episode? Because I asked you last season. Because you gave me an episode. Do you have a new favorite episode or?
This one's close, but I think I still stand firm on my first episode.
Okay.
But the other one is the unicorn scam.
Oh yeah.
I love that episode. It's hilarious. That unicorn is such a grifter. But what I love about it is like Mabel's take on the whole thing of like her trying to be the most, pure person that you can be. And like, it's funny because I laugh so hard at the end when the two other unicorns show up and they're like, "Oh, you're scamming? You're still running that old scam?" And they're like, "Old scam?" It's like, no, we can't even tell, like, if your heart's pure or not. We just flutter our hair and we can like dance around and make rainbows.
This is all we do. We just get dumb people to like
and then
tend to us.
She just punches him.
Oh yeah,
like
straight up combat. Punch. It was great.
It was amazing. And when she comes back and brings the unicorn hair, I died. I was like, this is such a great episode. Also the other episode that I loved too this season was the episode where Grunkle Stan, it's actually right after the whole it like took a break from like the big storyline to do this episode. So it kind of was a filler, but I actually enjoyed this. But it was the episode where Grunkle Stan gets everyone from the Mystery Shack and Mabel's friends to go on a prank fest for all the national parks. Or all the like weird tourist sites.
And they're like traveling everywhere and because he wants to like sabotage them all.
Yeah, and like some of the stuff he does is just some of the pranks that he does is just stupid and hilarious. But the episode is so great because the side story of that episode teaches a really good lesson on trying to pick up women. And I thought it was really, really well done because, Dipper goes to Grunkle Stan was like, "Hey, how do you pick up women?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've been a ladies' man forever, blah, 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 blah." And he's like, "You should just like, go up to them and talk to them and like kind of, just, get what they're interested in and just, talk to them." So he ends up doing it. But then he's like, "Wow, I found this." And like Grunkle Stan's like, "Don't stop. Just, it's more practice if you keep doing this."
Oh yeah, he keeps going. Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'll never see these women again." And then like the girls show up at the last one, which I forget which that one. It was like the Doom Mountain or something, or Mystery Mountain. And they end up going there, and that's when like Grunkle Stan like hooks up with that tarantula type girl, which is ridiculous, and I loved it. I loved every part of that episode. But it was a good take because it found out that like you can hurt people's feelings by, you don't mean to hurt their feelings, but if you're interested in someone, then like you stick to that person and be interested with, instead of trying to go after like 10 other people. And then that's what happens. It shows like, you should know exactly what you want in life. And it kind of also broke the whole thing from Dipper, from the whole Wendy thing.
Yeah, he gets off of his own feet.
And at that point, it also reminds me that like Dipper needs to move on, and he realizes that he hasn't moved on, but he lies about it. And like, I can relate to that a lot when, when I was a teenager, like I had that problem where I was like, I really like this person. They don't know if I'm in love with them. And like, and so like when you kind of like would like go after other people, but then you really like this other person, and then there's an opportunity that shows up, they don't like you that way, and sometimes you have to face that harsh reality of it. And, you can still be friends. Like, that's just a thing. It's just, I thought it was a great episode. But there were so many good episodes this season. I would have to say this season is actually, in my opinion, my favorite season out of the two.
Okay.
I like some of the episodes that were just super weird. Like the ghost haunting episode in the mansion was phenomenal. I love that episode. It's funny, hilarious, because I knew it was coming the whole time, but for some odd reason I still laughed really hard. And it was the part where like Mabel and I'm trying to think the other girl, not Pacifica. The bigger girl. No. Her friend, her Asian American friend. Is it her? I don't know. It's the one with the glasses.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Candy.
Yeah, Candy. Like they're trying to go after like that Persian or like that super like really
Yeah, it's Candy.
real handsome prince.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, we don't want our friend around because it will ruin it. And then he's like, I'm actually into this.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever she's just like, "What's that?" Whoa. He's like, "No one has ever done that to me before."
It was so good, so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the funny thing. I like season 1 a lot. Season 2 is where a lot of my favorite episodes are.
Yeah.
I really like the episode, of course, because I'm a nerd. It's Dungeons and Dragons and More Dungeons. The tabletop one that they did.
I have to say it, when the person that came on that played the wizard, I instantly got them. I was like, that's Weird Al Yankovic.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it instantly. I was like, that's Weird Al. And anything Weird Al's in, just like that episode cracked me up too, because I love Weird Al. And I love that they bring in like those little small cameos for people.
Oh yeah. Just get
amazing.
like the one-off character or whatnot. That's the thing I'll say about this show is like, part of the thing that I love about this show is that they do so many one-off characters that the cameos just make it, man. Like they get the right voice actor or anyone to jump in for that single episode. It makes all the difference. Like you mentioned J.K. Simmons, or what's the Spider-Man dude's name? Is it J.K.
Simmons?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like him, like when I first heard him, I was like, I recognize that guy instantly. That's fantastic. I love that they got him. And now, like Alex Hurst is also on that same boat with me. Like when I hear his voice and other things, I'm instantly like, I know his voice now. Because I've heard 3 different styles of it, and most people have those 3 styles and small iterations between the 2. But yeah, no, I really like the Dragons and Dungeons and More Dungeons episode. Personally, I think, okay, it's really hard for me to like look at one of these episodes and say which one's my favorite episode, but it's because like all these episodes are so high. I think it's only like slightly ekes out, and just because of the different references made during the episode is what I like the most, and that's the Seuss and the Real Girl episode. Specifically the episode where Seuss is trying to get he has to find a date to his cousin's wedding. Yeah. And he's like, Uncle Vinny, I forget his cousin's name. He's like, he's getting married. He's like the poor man Zeus. And he finds the one CD that has the girl named Jiffany, aka get obviously people should get the joke about Jiffany. And he starts doing the dating sim to figure out, and then the dating sim basically will not let him leave, and she wants to love him forever. And you get like a little Five Nights at Freddy like evening, but then he finds a real girl who actually likes him for who he is, and I was like, heck yeah, I like it whenever that thing introduces that, him just being natural, just him doing what he likes, and he finds someone. And the best part is it's just not a one-off. She like comes back in later episodes, so I enjoy that. I also like Tale of Two Stans, the episode where you hear all about Stan and Stanley's background. That's nice too. That's well done, and it makes like you acknowledge and enjoy their relationship more later. For what it's worth. So awesome. You said your favorite episode or anything with that. This show ends with a 4-part, I think it is. Maybe it's a 2-part. I forget how they break it up on Hulu.
It's a 3-part.
It's a 3-part? Okay.
Yeah.
3-part season finale of called Weird Mageddon. What'd you think of how the show ended? Like, what'd you think about the big bad boss, how they set it up, how everything kind of culminated together? What'd you think of that? Did you?
I like, I kind of, I enjoy, I think that they did it really well. Like there wasn't a time where I was like, oh, this is stupid. It's more of like, they progressed at a pace that I was comfortable with. Cause sometimes that's a problem when you get to the end of a show where like there's a big finale where pacing becomes like rushed.
Yeah.
And I like how they took those 3 episodes and 1 second. She was just making sure that no one could see her in the back.
Oh no, no.
She just wanted to make sure.
I just want to say this. I went like wow real quickly, and it's
Mhm.
because I didn't know how you mute your mic, and you just tap the top of it, and I was like, oh, that was cool. For
Yeah.
anyone who's like watching on the stream, they probably could see like my reaction to you doing, being like, oh wow, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
people listening
just
via
a,
IO
it's
just
just a
had
quick
no idea.
mute, like just tap. Now it's on.
Now it's off.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So,
magic.
Yeah. So back to what I was saying is this show and the finale 3 episodes, they pace it correctly so
Mhm.
that there's enough time to tie up loose ends, to derive a story that leads to the ending. And that's what I really enjoyed about the ending of the show is sometimes you feel like a show ends too abruptly because of one views that's canceled, or they just decide they're going to end the show, and like the creators do, they're just like, I'm done. This did not. This did it properly. I felt like every episode was well thought out and planned to a point where it left me feeling like it was completed. I didn't feel like I was whole. So like one of the biggest problems I have right now, like we've talked about shows in the past, like Game of Thrones is a perfect example of this, where I felt like season 8 was the most rushed thing I've ever seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Because you went from a season that's usually about 10 episodes to a season that was 6 episodes. And it you can tell it was rushed. Like it felt rushed. And that's, due to like Dan's whole thing that they were getting a Star Wars deal. But the other thing is like,
ruining it now.
one of the biggest things that I had a problem with was Dexter. I watched Dexter only to watch Dexter because of John Lithgow was one of the killers in season 3 of Dexter. And I only watched it, but then I was like, well, I have to finish it.
Spoil that, Austin.
Ooh, everyone knows that.
I didn't.
But
who knows? Maybe you were going to force me to watch Dexter.
The end of Dexter, like the season 4 ending, was so bad that fans like erupted. They were like, this is awful. Why would you end a show like this? So then they came back and did one season where they conclude Dexter's rest of his like story. And that season is great until the last episode. The last episode, they try to tie up loose ends within an hour, and it just gets to a point where things didn't make sense when things happen. I was like, what would drive that person to do that? Like, that doesn't make sense. So it's hard to find a show where like it can be good from the beginning till the end. And like, there's only certain shows that have done that. Like, I love Community, but do I think Community had a great ending? No, I didn't. I really didn't. It wasn't bad. I've seen very worse endings, but I don't consider like Community like being a good ending. And hopefully the movie kind of fixes that, and that's why I'm kind of waiting on that.
Have that reason is not even Community fault, because
this is where it comes down.
This is where it comes down to the issue of continuation, right? You mentioned before that it's like, I wish there was more, and you're not the only one who feels that way. Like, I even feel that I wish there was more episodes. But I also acknowledge that Alex Hirsch, when he made this show, he intended it to be finite. He intended it to be short-lived, point type deal thing. And he finished it how he wanted to finish it. Like, he could have kept going, but he chose not to. He got to tell the story that he wanted to, and he got to done it out. Now, I will say this. There is rumor, because this is now the 10th year since the show was aired, or finished, or I think it's aired. He posted a bunch of pictures about Gravity Falls again, and people are hoping and praying that he wants to do one more season, just a fast forward season where it's like them in the future, or when they're older, like 10 years older, going back to the Mystery Shack to see Stan for the summer. I'd be okay with that. Not even like a continuation, just more of like where they are now type deal thing. Short one season and be done with it. Because I do think this show ended on a really good note. It was solid. There are a couple things that were not explained that felt like they should have been explained. And a lot of fans who are like big into watching it will point out some of them. One of the big ones is Dipper. he's called Dipper for having the little dipper on his head. That plays no point at whatsoever, and how they introduced it was as if that was going to be significant in some way. It would be cool if they made the sequel, like not a sequel, but like a third season of, like, you know, years later, kind of like how Steven Universe kind of did it, I guess would be because Steven Universe has the show, and then they have Steven Universe Future, which is nearly 5 or 10 years later. And it's just how the world has changed since the episodes of Steven Universe, and how Steven's dealing with everything changing. And that's amazing. Side note, I love that whole series. But they could do that with this show. Like, you know, see how Maple is when she's like 17 or 16, and see how Dipper is when he's that old. Or like 20. Like, I don't know how much they would age them up or whatnot. If they do a one for one and it's been 10 years and they just age them up 10 years, they'd be like, what, 27? No, they'd be like 22 or something like that.
Yeah, 22, because they're turning 13.
They're turning 13 in this season. So
last episode, yeah.
So it would be crazy to see, and it would be interesting to see how much everyone else grown. And it would be absolutely hilarious if they did it and Gideon still looks the same.
And I think it would be funny just to see where the Mystery Shack is now because of Zeus.
Yeah, 100%.
I would just like to see that. And, or, you know, I even thought this. I thought maybe he could do, you know, a season where it's not just named Gravity Falls, and it's just Ford and Grunkle Stan's like one season small adventures of them like going around the world.
They could do so much with this setup. The only thing that I personally would be upset about, that I mentioned before, is the idea of sticking the landing after that. You know, if they tried to like push this forward in some way, because that's the thing. Gravity Falls was popular when it came out, but it was also fighting a lot of other popular shows at the time, so it didn't get the same traction as other shows did. But it is also what I consider kind of a cult cartoon. Is the people who find it love it, and then they share it with their other friends, and then it has just became more and more popular off of air, like off air.
Which, you know, I think what really does that is streaming networks.
No, for
you
sure.
know, like, people don't realize is, like, you know, if it wasn't for you watching Community during, you know, the pandemic, me and you wouldn't have, I would never watch Community.
Not even
like,
just me and you, Austin. One, we wouldn't have watched it. Two, it wouldn't have became popular like it did, because it wasn't popular beforehand. Like, it was a cult classic show. I've heard of Community, but only in name alone. I had no idea who it was, other than that was the show that Donald Glover was on before he became Childish Gambino and the producer of Atlanta.
Oh yeah,
or the director of it. And when it got on the air, I was like, okay, I'll bite. I'll check it out. And because I did, and so many other people during the pandemic watched it, that's getting the movie made. It's all because of it that the movie's getting made. And the same thing could possibly be said about this show, or even other shows are just high possibility that shows that had no general backing, the production system is seeing that people like these things and it could come back. Now, if only they can do that with Firefly, because that show deserved a lot more than what it got.
Yes, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, and like, fans are starting to come back and watch these shows on, you know, streaming networks, or, you know, they're watching stuff on YouTube. Like, we just watched, you know, Pupcat and B like a couple months ago, and that was a YouTube series.
That's another show that has went through a lot of ups and downs because of just deals with bad streaming services, and then just things not going through or being released in bad schedule from what they promised and things like that. And then they finally got a solid hit on Netflix, and it's like, there you go. That's what it needs. It just needs a centerpiece that is connected to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
so, you know, it's helping, and I see this as like a very popular movie, because what's really funny about Gravity Falls is, like, I've already passed it off to someone else.
Oh, did you?
Because so my buddy Andrew loves Gravity Falls, and me and him talked about it for a while. And then after I was watching an episode, and one of my coworkers came in and saw the the first Weird Geddon episode. And they were like, wow, this is Gravity Falls? And I was like, yeah, it's solid. He's like, I've heard about it. I tried to watch it like back then, but I was too interested in a lot of other shows. So I said, yeah, that's what happened with this. And he actually texted me later. He was like, there's only like one season? Well, he was like, wait, there's only 2 seasons, or am I missing something? I was like, no, it's only 2 seasons. And he was like, oh, really? And I was like, yeah, you could blow through it real quick. I was like,
Easy.
but I was like, you should enjoy it because I think you would like it. And he said that he was watching it. I haven't talked to him ever since then, which I'll probably talk to him tomorrow because he'll be on shift tomorrow. But it's interesting, and that's what's great about streaming networks is, you know, how TV used to work for people that have not, that are not my age. You know, where like, you know, the only way you could get picked up for a show was they would play a pilot on TV, and then if enough people watched it, they would like greenlight you for a season, or they already had the season made, and then they were just like, oh well, it's only getting 1 season. But after it was canceled, it was done. There was nothing that was going to happen to bring it back. But out of nowhere, like you have things get canceled, and then other stream networks pick those up, and it's like, no, this is a good show. Let's keep going with this.
Let's keep going with it. Let's move.
Yeah. So like Community is one of those too.
That's what's fantastic, and
yeah,
it sucks. You know, side note on this, and we can start kind of like figuring out wrapping it up, because it's the same way that I like this show. I was really interested in watching Infinity Train, and I got crushed not too long ago because that was on the back burner for me. Like I was actually going to about a couple months or so ago start watching it so I could tell you to watch it. I wanted you to watch it. Because I didn't know that there was multiple seasons of the show. I was like, oh dang, I didn't know it even got made. Like that's fantastic, because I watched it on YouTube, the pilot, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun and entertaining. And right whenever I go to start watching it, HBO came out, said they're cutting a bunch of shows, and that's one of the shows that got cut. And I have no idea where to find the show to watch anymore, outside of going Yo Ho Ho on the Pirate Seas. And it's not that I'm against that. It's just more of like
the convenience, and then the
like,
headache that can evolve into it.
I'm paranoid. Like I like my computer, man. I don't want to accidentally get something bad on that, or get like raid broke down. It's just like, how dare you steal this $1 billion company who's trying to make a quick buck? Like,
so what if I told you I actually have that series now?
I mean, that'd be solid. That's cool.
I have it. I actually bought it off of eBay. Someone had like the series, like just they were selling on eBay.
Did like any type of thing like that.
So like there is places that bootleg.
Like it's something
things,
like someone like,
and someone did that.
This.
Yeah, there's a website that does that. Like because there's certain things that people want for a physical copy. Like a lot of people got like the Daredevil series on Blu-ray because they didn't do the last 2 seasons on Blu-ray, and people wanted that. But the problem was like Netflix had the whole problem with Disney at that point, so they never came out with the last 2 seasons on Blu-ray. So my buddy actually knew of a website that would make those for him. So I was like, oh, okay. So when I looked up that series, I saw that series had a Blu-ray bootleg on eBay, and I was like, oh, this guy is selling it for cheap. Let's see what it is. If it's not, like, whatever. And so like I have them. I have not watched them because I was like, oh, this is probably something that like what the heck? Watch it on Vudu. Oh well, I think you have to pay for those. Actually, you have to pay for those episodes, which I'd be okay with if it's just because on Amazon you can pay for a season, but we could check that out.
Well, it's. I didn't know anything about watching it on Hulu. I know you can watch it. Like, yeah, those areas you all have to pay. You have to pay for the episodes or the season. I was looking for like actual stream service that I already had or that we could acquire. That is just boom, here it is. We can watch it and go. It gets a little harder to like do shows or episodes whenever it's not located to a streaming service that we can just be like, hey guys, this is what we're watching next. It's on this show. Cause freaking A, like I like what we want to do. Like, hey, you want to watch this episode? Freaking buy it. Which, let's be honest here, in this current move, I would be more okay with that because this show got axed because of HBO being greedy, and screw that, man. I hate that so much. And so the creators deserve some actual love. So give it to the creators versus giving it to a corporation of some sort. And I'm sure buying them straight out would give them more money than you like pirating it, which is the main reason why I'm kind of against it, is because I want to give it to the company that made it, not the giant corporation that owns rights to it. So, and that's kind of how I feel about most animated shows that got cut from that, and other places that's like, I love animation. I love any form of animation, anime, like anime or animation of like the cartoon variety. I think it's solid. You can tell some really amazing stories that you wouldn't be able to tell in person without high budget CG of some sort. And I will die on that hill. I just think the animation is the best form to do stories in. And I will prove that when Vox Machina Season 2 is done. And we can watch that. And I would be like, see, look at this. Look at what they can do. Screw Game of Thrones.
Yeah, because the thing is like people have to come to the realization that animation is probably the best way to do anything science fictional or anything that's bizarre, because you can put more detail in certain things, like especially monsters. Like when you do monsters in like a live action movie, you can tell it's completely CGI'd, and sometimes they don't do a good job at it.
It's so, like this idea of disbelief. Like you see it in the actual like quality that we live, and like, yeah, it can look good, it can be cool and whatnot, but your brain is also like, it's not functional, it's not real. And I will also be one of those people. Me and Jordan were actually talking about this on the way back from the get together this on, is that when you have those sort of things, it requires the actors to act without a reactionary tool. Like specifically like The Hobbit, you know, there's the one famous video of the guy who plays Gandalf breaking down because he's alone in a green room doing his lines, and he has to react as if someone's acting in front of him. And that's just really hard, and you don't get genuine reactionary shots where people are looking and everything, so it just feels kind of more cardboard. And once you kind of start picking up on that from watching shows and movies and everything of that sort, you start realizing like, yeah, it's kind of noticeable. You don't really get that in animation. You can, especially if you get subpar voice acting who does not actually put emotion into their act, and they're just kind of talking, you know, like, I'm Grunkle Stan, blah blah blah. But yeah, not saying that Grunkle Stan that, I'm just making a reference. But so many voice actors, anytime I've watched voice actors do voice acting cuts, they are expressive. They're going into it. They're going loud. I really loved watching
Mark Hamill.
There was a video of whenever
Kevin Conroy, like
what's his name? Robert Williams, when he was doing the genie, how like he got like super into it and going and everything, and they actually took some of his recording and like used that for the animations, and it's like perfect, beautiful. I don't know if that's the same for the show. I'm sure that they did, because there's so many situations where like they have said or do stuff that I will go on rants about that easily. So
well,
I'm
also
cut myself off there.
You also have to realize is how technology has evolved with animation and how things are. Last of Us is a perfect example. God of War is a perfect example, where most of the acting that's done is real acting. It's just an animation screen. It's not a screen anymore.
Oh, like mocap. Yeah.
It's like the mocap stuff. So like it's easier to express emotions, but also too is there's no like, you know, you don't have to be like, oh, that person wasn't acting correctly. It's more of like, oh, well, this is already an animated character. We can just make them act that way. Like have that facial expression. They don't need that.
You can adjust the emotion to make it more impactful or not. Or
yeah, so
that's the thing I was saying, man.
Yep.
I'm just side note.
One other thing.
Yeah.
Because I brought it up at the beginning of the podcast.
I did you.
And sometimes I can be a little like, I get like these choked up moments or these tear-eyed moments.
Oh yeah.
And Gravity Falls did that. I was actually going to text you and tell you to go screw yourself.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, so something happens in the show towards the end of the season, and it reminded me of a time when I had to deal with this, and it was rough. Like it was really rough, and it made me think of that moment. And there's a part in there's the episode where the rift is breaking, it's cracking from the seams, and Ford and Dipper have to go to the alien, what was it, spaceship, to get the glue to fix the rift. And when they do, Ford asks Dipper if he would like to stay here at Gravity Falls and be his apprentice, and then learn, like growing up, learning these things and being on an adventure with him instead of going back to California with Mabel. And so, you know, and at the end of the episode, you know, she finds out that he's doing that. And that's when the whole capture thing happens, when she gets captured, because she betrays, her brother, because, well, she's kind of tricked actually, because Justin Roiland's character is actually Bill Cipher. But there's a point where it reminded me of something that I've dealt with. And like, so what I mean by that is like, so Dipper and Mabel, what they're set up in this whole show is they're like this being that is like a friendship being, even though that they could get mad at each other and they can like go through each other, they're experiencing life together as friends, not just a relative. And like, I felt that way with you when I was like that age. Like, you know, we were on the same wavelength, you know, like we would always like stay up and play video games and like invite, you know, you knew my friends and I knew your friends, and like it wasn't weird. It wasn't like, oh, hey, my friends are older, screw your little brother. Like, you know, like it was more, yeah, it did. But like those people I didn't really hang out with as much because I cared for you. So like most of your friends became my friends. And like when we did this weekend thing, like what we just did, those were all your friends. Like I never had a single one of my friends there, but I met them through you. And I enjoy those people and I had fun. And, you know, I look back at this and like, if I had, you know, my old friends like that compared to these people, I think it would have been totally different, and I probably would have been a different person. And I'm actually very grateful that like I got to, you know, meet those people. Because some of those people that were with us over the weekend, I really consider really good friends, and they're great people. We might joke around, like hurt each other's feelings, just joke, you know, like we'll say, get better, scrub, or whatever. But there was a point in my life where like the only thing that was holding me together was you. It was like right after I graduated from high school. I was going through a lot of stuff. Like I was planning on going actually to Pittsburgh and going to the Art Institute to be a film director. And I opted out against that because at the time my family needed the help. And so I took that upon myself too, to help my family. But also I got to the point of, I had like those thoughts in my head that were like, I'm not good enough to go to school. Like, that's just not who I am. But you should propel someone else to think better than that. And that's what I did. Like, I know that like, you know, what happened to AIP and everything that happened with that, but it, you know, it led to where you're living at today. Like you are in Pittsburgh, you have friends there, you have a job there, you enjoy Pittsburgh. Well, you know, unless you don't, but, you know, but the biggest thing that like, I'll never forget was the day you left for college. I'll never forget it because it kind of made me feel like Gravity Falls, where, you know, I was like, man, I'm too stuck on this person. I don't want them to go, and I don't want them to leave, and I need this person. And I realized like me getting in front of that would ruin an opportunity for someone to have a better life. And that's what happens with Mabel in this episode. She tells him like, it's okay if you want to stay here. like, I'll be fine without you. And she realizes that the love that she has for her brother is supersedes like her being selfish. And it realizes that like no matter what, you're still going to be relatives and you're going to be like best friends. And like that made me think that way. When you left, I was like, oh crap, this sucks. Like I hate it. Like I felt empty. Like that's why like most of the time I'd drive out, what was it, like 10 p.m. at night? And I'd be out there at like 7 p.m. and then I'd stay until like 1 or 2 and then leave and come home. Or I'd sleep in your dorm, you know, like that's the thing. Like there was a bond there. And me doing that, I realized that like it made you who you were today. Like you're the person that I'm proud of. And like, not to get all sappy, guys, like you're listening over the podcast, but like I'm proud of Josiah, of who he has become and like who he's going to be in the future. And you know, I'm super stoked to you know, like just be around you and hang out with you like all the time, because it's been a lot of fun. And I think this weekend was great about it. I really enjoyed it, and it brought back a lot of memories of us staying up with everyone's friends and playing Halo until 6 a.m. even though all of us are kind of old and we kind of went to bed at like 1 and we're like, yeah, we're going to bed.
It also doesn't help that I've changed my sleep schedule to go to bed by like 10ish.
Yeah,
and so
that's
staying
the
up
thing.
till 1 was like, oh boy, I gotta get to bed, you know, one of those days.
Yeah, that's how I felt too, because like once you guys all passed out before me, and I just sat in the bed watching Red Letter Media until like I think it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. But then I was up at like 10, because that's just how I am when I sleep. I only sleep for like 6 to 7 hours. But yeah, what I'm saying about this is Gravity Falls hit that spot where it made it kind of like did a reality thing, and it reminded me of things that I'm proud of that I did and the decisions I did make and I supported. You know, and like, man, I'll never forget the end of that episode where like Wendy gives him her hat and he gives her his hat, and she's like, if you ever miss Gravity Falls, like read this. And it's like everyone signed it and said, you know, like, you know, we'll miss you. And it could lead into like a new season, and I'm okay with that. But it reminded me so much of like things I've dealt with. Like there's those moments where like you're sad and like you miss people, but you got to realize it's like those people have to live their life and move on. And I think this show did really well with how emotions work. And so, yeah, but I really think that if anyone liked the show, that you should promote this show, because I would like to see more of Gravity Falls, and I'd like to, or even like a separate series of Gravity Falls that involves like Ford and Grumple Stan. Like I would love to see that. But, you know, I think that's all I'm going to say about Gravity Falls. It's a 10 out of 10. This will be on my watch list a lot. And I think I'm actually going to be with you on this. I'm going to watch it during the fall, because there's such great episodes that are like fall-oriented episodes, and I love them.
For being a show about the summer, it sure got me in the mood for like fall vibes.
Yeah, like spooky times. Like I like that kind of stuff.
Especially the what was it? The zombie episode always makes me feel like, yep, this is a Halloween.
Dude, that got really real quick. I love Zeus in that episode.
Yeah, whenever Zeus gets bit, he's like, yo, bro, I'm gonna eat your brain.
I don't mean to. I'm sorry.
Give me that brain, buddy.
Oh man, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Austin. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it's on your rotation. That's solid. I'm glad. It's nice for me to like show a show that I really like in you, and that's what I enjoy. Austin. That's basically it for this episode. But what are we watching next week, Austin? We're watching a show that you like.
So,
I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're gonna be watching a show called Wilfred. Do not watch the one on Netflix, guys. That is the original series from Australia. It does have the same actor that plays the dog. They actually like the person that wrote the American version of this show, which stars Elijah Wood. was a fan of the Australia version, wanted to bring it to America, but they thought the only way that who could ever play Wilfred the dog is the original actor because he did so well in the Australian version. It is totally different. So make sure you watch it on Hulu. It was an FX only like show, and there's 4 seasons of this, so we'll be doing this for like 4 weeks. So
Okay.
yeah, so first season's good.
So, yeah, next
They're about
week-
like 20-minute episodes.
Hey,
You'll
you
love
didn't
that.
screw me over again, Austin. I love you. I can actually watch that during work.
Yeah.
And on top of the The Last of Us as well. Which I have been watching. You've advised me to watch it weekly just because I've never played the games, and sure enough, at first I wasn't going to do it, but I am a TikTok person, and the first week I just started seeing a bunch of TikToks about it. But luckily enough, it was just people comparing it to the game, but not really talking about spoilers of such.
Yeah, because it's gonna get spoiler heavy here in the next like 3 episodes.
I assume so, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna watch it weekly just to get that out of the way, so that way I can get my general thoughts during the process, and then later, like whenever we go do it on the show, we can discuss my thoughts and feelings versus yours / what they kept, changed, or remained faithful for. For the show. So, all right. So next week we got Wilfred. We're gonna do that next Wednesday, normal time, 8:15. Yeah. Austin, thanks so much for stopping by, joining me on this episode as always, and thank you all so much for stopping by, and thank you all so much tuning in.